Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tradesman Experience. This is the podcast built by tradesmen for tradesmen. My name is Josh, and on this Monday recording day is, of course, Mr. Nate Newton. Nate, how are you, sir?
Tired.
It's Monday. Has it been a Monday-ass Monday?
It's Monday-ass Monday. But I'm heading to Austin, Texas on Thursday. It's Kat's birthday, and then see my little sister. She lives down there. So
Wait, what? Your sister?
Holly?
Oh, okay.
My youngest sister?
Yeah.
I got two of them.
Have I met Holly? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
She's very meek. She's very quiet. You know,
Like you.
Introvert. Yes. Spitting image.
Meek.
Yeah.
I've always been trying to pinpoint the word to describe you.
Right.
Meek is it.
That's the one. I'm going with it.
Wasn't it that weird character on Thor? Ragnarok, wasn't it Meek? With
Yeah.
The blade guns. Yeah, that's you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Clearly.
what day are you heading down there?
I got to drive to fucking San Francisco after football practice on Wednesday, so I won't leave till like 4. So that puts me in the Bay Area at like fucking 8, and then we're flying out of SFO. It's a quick jaunt though; it's only like 3 hours. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Direct flight?
Direct, yeah. That's why I'm going out of San Francisco. Because flying out of Reno, you always have to fly somewhere else first.
You do.
Yeah.
Not a lot of direct flights.
Right. Flying out of Reno sucks sometimes. So
going to the Midwest, I always have a layover, and if I'm lucky, it's Denver, which is the good layover. Going to St. Louis. Second best is Phoenix. I normally get Long Beach, which makes
you're going the other direction.
Yes.
That's fucking great.
Yeah.
The worst one out of all of them is Salt Lake. Because there's one fucking bar in that airport, and my gate always ends up at the opposite end of the fucking airport. And I don't fly sober. It's like teleporting. You pass out on a plane in one city, and wake up in another one, you're like, oh, how did I get here?
Yeah, they won't let me fly the plane sober, drunk, either way. But yeah, that's and how you guys are going to be there till what, Sunday? You coming back the weekend?
No, coming back on the 13th. Which is like Tuesday or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, damn, it's a good stint then.
Yeah. I've always wanted to go to Austin. I heard it's a badass city, and I was Matt and I were looking today trying to get tickets to Joe Rogan's new comedy club. All the ones that have headliners on them are sold out through like September 28th or something.
Wow.
Yeah. So they have like some open mic night stuff.
Where's the new comedy club?
Downtown Austin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the reason why I wanted to go is because like, you know, it's like $50 or something for like booth service. So it's like decently priced, but you never know who's going to pop in to do a set. You know, like I heard Dave Chappelle just showed up one night and went in there. I'd love to see Shane Gillis. I think Tom Segura is actually headlining while we're down there.
Gotcha.
But of course, it's all sold out. But
yeah,
I still want to.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I still want to go over there and see if we can't like, you know, weasel our way in.
Some tickets.
Yeah, something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I've been pretty big on stand-up comedy the last couple of years.
Same. I've been big on stand-up actually since I was a kid. And okay, here we go, traveling back in time, Nate.
Do they have the old crank cameras?
Roll 8 millimeter. You know, when Comedy Central was mostly stand-up comedy back then, before it is what it is today.
Nonsense.
So you could watch, you know, back-to-back stand-up comedy for hours.
Right.
And at one point in time, I wanted to be a stand-up comic.
Well, I'm laughing just looking at you.
Yeah,
so.
I get that a lot. So I don't want to say I follow stand-up comedy, but I'm still a pretty big fan of it. It's one of my Pandora stations, just stand-up comedy, and mainly because it's one of the ways that I can detach my brain from
bullshit.
Yeah. And I'm okay with listening to some stand-up comedy. Tom Segura is hilarious. Dan Cummins is one of my favorite stand-up comedians. I think he's fucking brilliant. But yeah,
Shane Gillis or Mike Norman, those guys are fucking. Mike Norman, I don't know what it is about his tempo, but that shit gets me rolling.
I was in high school, or just out of high school. So the last stand-up comedy I saw was Jeff Foxworthy.
Holy shit! Is he still alive?
Probably in Well, I saw him in '99.
Holy shit! Yeah.
1999. And went and saw him because he had came to our hometown for the state fair.
Oh no shit!
He was one of the shows in the grandstand. So that's how much I get out,
dude. Ron White's a fucking killer too, dude. That dude stand up, even at his age and now that he's sober, it's fucking like on point right now.
I would assume that he might be better live because he is funny.
Yeah,
but live.
Yeah, there was that whole what was that shit that Jeff Foxworthy and played the Cable Guy,
the Blue Collar Comedy Tour.
Yeah.
I got burnt out on him.
It was funny the first time.
It was. But it was also PG.
Yeah, right. When Ron's doing what Ron wants to do, yeah, that shit's fucking good.
So, I got, and I could only handle so much of Larry the Cable Guy because being from part of the country I'm from, everybody had fucking "Get Her Done" stickers on their truck and wanted to talk like that.
You know, he doesn't have that.
Like that. I know.
Not his accent.
It's made up, which is fantastic. Fantastic.
He's like, these fucking rednecks will buy anything as long as you throw their accent in there.
And that's the thing is, I go home and there's cut off, flannel, sleeveless flannel shirts and camouflage hats.
Right.
Like I said, it's all "Get Her Done" and the big latex testicles hanging off the back of the hitch on the truck. And I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm home.
You people are walking stereotype.
Yeah, I'm home. I think I don't know if I told you or Matt or whatever. I was home for about 26 hours when I ran into a 95-year-old white racist guy. I was like, God, nothing is like says, "Oh, you're back home."
Right.
Like listening to a decrepit old man say racial shit in the parking lot of Walmart.
Right.
That is. Yeah. So, my upbringing in town is like a combination of a bad country song and shitty stand-up comedy. So
that's a great analogy of where you come from.
Man. But good people.
Just a little misguided.
Good people, just little... kind of in the little bitty bubble of beliefs and perspective.
Got to keep it simple for them.
Oh God! So right before we hit record, I pitched a new episode idea to you, and I want to do an Ask Me Anything episode. So here's the idea. I want to really open it up where. People have anybody that's been with us from day one they've got over 200 hours with us. I want to create the opportunity for people to literally ask us anything, except any questions they have for you. I want them to send to me, and any questions they have for me, I want them to send to you. And I want to do this blind reaction questionnaire.
Just read them off the cuff.
Just read them off back and forth. That way, we don't have to do the show live, but we can do it in here. And I'm interested to know if people want to know anything about us. To be honest,
it's because it'd be like personal shit. Anything.
Yeah. And we were making stupid jokes about what some of the people that we know are ask Nate this.
Knowing some of our fan base, it's like, it could get pretty Western.
It's going to get entertaining.
Yeah.
So we're pitching that out. This is, if really just feedback, if that's something you guys, the listeners would be interested in. If it is just, you on Instagram or me on Instagram, just say, "Hey, yes, we want to do that." And here's a question I have for Nate. I'd be like, yes. So I do want to create some, make it a little bit personal, also entertaining.
Right.
And it gives an opportunity for you and I to fire questions at one another that we didn't write.
Yeah. I can't wait.
Yes, I'll go ahead and answer this one. I am sexier in person than on camera.
Very true. So, for some reason, the camera takes 10 pounds off of you. Doesn't put it on.
Thank God. It's on my legs, though.
No, it's not.
I meant the removal.
The removal. Yeah. Very true.
I I went to the noon training class today, and we were doing front squats and weighted chin-ups, and then we had this entire like crazy couplet metcon, and I don't squat very heavy.
I could tell.
Yeah, so can I. Okay, there's parts of me that look bigger when I don't do legs. Okay, it's not my ass.
Is it your
either.
toes?
Yeah, it's my giant fucking feet. But it's like disappointing because I was front squatting like the least amount of weight, but I was doing weighted chin-ups with the most amount of weight. So yeah, I get that prison yard strength.
Yeah, you're a gym bro.
I'm not really sure what you would classify that as. Just disproportionate for sure.
Well, that's like Robert Frank. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a dude with like the bandana that's like down almost over his eyes, and he's in the gym just yelling random shit. But he's the same. He does the same thing. He's like, "Fuck leg day. We don't do fucking leg day."
Yeah.
But it's just all for the aesthetic, right? Like Jersey Shore type shit.
Gotcha. As I've been going to the gym and the way that my brain works in the moments of reflection, I think about what would I tell my younger self? And I would absolutely do two things, because we've talked about before. I've never been an athlete. I didn't compete in sports.
Well, you swam. That's just gracefully trying not to die.
Yeah, and you don't have to have a lot of leg strength for that. Actually, the less you drag behind you, the faster you go.
Paraplegics are great at it.
But I'm going to circle it to Bill Burr in a second, but I would lift correctly. I would lift weights, and I would run. If I could tell my younger self to do two activities that were going to benefit me at my age, because I'm trying to learn how to fucking do that shit now.
Right.
And it sucks.
Yeah.
It would be to lift weights, do squats, and run. And it like that, because I work out with these people that have even just high school athletic backgrounds and maybe haven't touched weights since then and have been removed for 15, 20 years. They established all of that bone density, muscle fibers, muscle memory, conditioning. They built that early on. And for them to rebuild that later in life is far, far easier than me. I'm trying to build it at my age.
Right.
And you're
trying to build while things are falling apart.
Dude. So a few years ago when I started doing the Spartan races for fun, not competitive, not elite, super slow, that was when I started realizing, I need to learn how to run. And at 36 or 37 is when I started learning how to run. And it sounds crazy because everybody's like, oh, you learned how to run as a kid. Yeah. I did not. I also can't ride a fucking bike, so fuck off. Okay? I had shin splints so fucking bad at 37 years old.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's advice to my younger self. I was going to make back to the stand-up comedy thing. Did you see that new one with Bill Burr where he talks about he said when he was a kid, if you saw a fake leg, everybody had the same leg. It was Band-Aid color. Right. They were hobbling along, right? It wasn't functional. He said now people with fake legs are not allowed to compete in the real Olympics because they're faster than people with real legs. He said, if you look down and there's two sickles. Yeah, right. Just battling on the fucking ground.
Shit.
I love Bill Burr.
Yeah.
Fucking, he's a monster.
He's angry.
It's so great.
So ornery.
It's so great. So, anyway, that's my legless Bill Burr reference. What the fuck are we talking about? Okay, so the conversation you and I had before this was cultural asset. We talked about asking for raise, adding value, creating opportunity as a leader, and building yourself to be an asset to the team and really working on growing yourself. I'd referenced something in that conversation about what to do after the onboarding process. And we didn't circle back to that in that conversation. So I want to circle to it in this conversation, because when I talk with companies, here's this dead horse again, Nate. Roles, responsibilities, and expectations. I just wish fucking people would get like how much of a staple that is into the operation of a business.
It always cracks me up when it clicks with people. And it's like, we've been saying it forever. And they're like, no, for some reason, today was the fucking day. And
So when you do that, and then you interview, you hire, and you onboard, now the question is, okay, once the onboarding is over, then what?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to dive down a couple different avenues with this conversation. One is going to be post onboarding. The other is going to be, okay, if you already have somebody on your team, you need to develop the structure and have this conversation. And then another part is kind of an annual review or a 360 review. I don't like evaluation. I don't like the term. I don't like what it represents. I like to look at it as an expectation meeting or again, a 360 review, because we're going to look all around, inward and outward, which means, when you and I sit down and have a conversation, I'm going to ask you, all right, where do you want to improve? What do you want to do? Where do you think you can improve, where you can not only improve, but if you want to elevate to something? And then I'm also going to ask you, where can we improve? Where do you think we need to be better? So that conversation is inward and outward about how we can develop. But let's circle back to the onboarding process. Brief on the onboarding process. You got about a 30-day immersion period where you're making sure that the individual is going to meet the standard.
Mm-hmm.
The standard of behavior, punctuality, appearance, communication, system implementation, which is a really, really big one. And ultimately, that onboarding process is to ensure that both parties, you and the individual you're bringing on, is going to fulfill the agreement that you have. You said, I want to work here. I want to be a part of this team. This is what I want to do. And I said, here are the terms in which we agree on. And you said, okay, I also agree to those terms at this price. So we have an agreement. And the onboarding process is to make sure that both parties are going to fulfill their agreement.
Yeah. And I think that it's really easy for that to get away from you. It's hard, especially if you're in a busy season and you're bringing somebody on, for you to spend your time to go bird dog the new guy. Very hard to do, right? So, like, if you're fortunate enough, you can delegate that to your leadership to have them do a lot of it, but you still need to be involved in that process regardless, right?
Involved is the correct word. You don't have to be the one doing it. Had this conversation before you got here today. He's got an summer intern starting on Monday, and he's pairing him up with his field foreman. And I said, if your schedule allows it, you should really be there the first day.
Right.
Because you want to manage that introduction. You want to ensure that the onboarding process and the expectations are clear. And then you can remove yourself from the daily onboarding and you can have the conversations with your foreman, but you're not the one you don't have to be the one that does it. So if you have that flexibility or that opportunity to delegate, absolutely. If you don't, and you are hiring someone that is not going to be by your side, that you are going to be able to, we have a full-time fabricator, or I've got a service technician now and they're going to be in their own truck. You still have to outline what that onboarding process looks like. Has to be expectations of communication, again, punctuality, appearance, organization, communication, everything that you want that individual to do to represent your company and your brand and how they're going to create the experience for the client. That onboarding process is to do everything that you would do in 6 months to a year in 30 days, which means I'm going to tell you, if you don't get frustrated and angry with me in the first 30 days, I'm not pushing hard enough.
Right.
I want this to be very uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah, because, you're not going to see the true colors of people until they're uncomfortable, right? I mean, until they're faced with adversity, you're just getting the rose-colored glasses, right? And I mean, everybody comes out of the gate swinging, for those first couple of weeks, and then you really start to see what they're all about after like week 2.
Yep. So the honeymoon phase wears off, and people will find kind of their operating excellence, even if it's not excellent.
Right.
They'll find that level, and that onboarding process is to ensure that they understand what that level is, and not really allowing them to decide what that is.
Yeah. Well, and then also with that onboarding process, you kind of get to give them, be like, hey, this was the baseline you said you're at. These are the things you need to work on in order for us to maintain this original deal, right? Like, hey, you're lacking here. For what we're paying, we're going to need you to step your game up. And so it's a good way to bypass that. I need more money because I excelled this skill or whatever. And it's like, well, this is baseline shit. Just because you did better than shitty doesn't mean you get more money.
So the money is a great segue into post-onboarding, because if someone comes up to me and if I were to ask you, how much money do you want to make? And you said, and I'm going to be as exaggerating as I can, and you said, I want to make $100 an hour.
Me too.
And again, for the listeners, I'm using the $100 an hour to exaggerate my point. But instead of me going, well, that's never going to fucking happen. I don't even make $100 an hour. That's not possible. I'm going to say, okay, you want to make $100 an hour. Let's you and I figure out what it's going to take for you to generate the value worth $100 an hour. So my follow-up question then would be, for you to make $100 an hour, what is it that you think you need to do? Because I'm going to start answering that question internally. I'm going to start defining that. But I also want to know what you think that definition is, because I've got to see if there's any level of alignment or if we're so far disconnected that this equation is not going to work. So after that onboarding, and you guys do this pretty well, you start rarely, I don't think you've had anyone come in and start at top rig rate.
No.
Right?
Well, Nick.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's like people that we know, like we've been through the ringer with them.
Yeah. But they also, you have everything structured out and they meet the tier system, right? They have the hours logged, they have the certificates, they have the tooling, but we're talking about one person. You can bring someone in with the expectation of, hey, if you fulfill the agreement, I'll fulfill my agreement post onboarding, and we're going to move you into this pay structure. But that pay structure should be connected to a growth plan. You and your team should have an annual growth plan. So if you're going to come out of the onboarding, again, back to fulfilling the agreement, I've got to make sure that you and I have measurable benchmarks throughout the year to ensure that we are both on track.
Right. Yeah.
The welding industry is a really kind of honestly a simple example of this, because I can say, all right, by month 9, you're going to be making, and you want to make X number of dollars an hour. So let's reverse engineer that. You need this certificate, you need this tooling, and you need X number of hours logged doing this thing. So somebody is going to be a TIG welder, or at least add that to their tool kit. Okay, you get these many hours logged, you get this certificate, you pass this performance test, this is the tooling that you need, you have 9 months to do that. We're going to, again, reverse engineer it. At month 2, I'm going to check in on you.
Yeah. Well, and then I think having the ability to step up pay as you go, it's not we're at this baseline and then 9 months you'll get the full increase. Like, it's an incremental increase, so that there's bite-sized goals, right?
Yes.
It's tangible. You're not just waiting out for 9 months. Like, you get to reap the benefits of your hard work along the way.
What I like about that is the brilliance of creativity. You can literally structure this however you want.
Yeah.
Okay. What I don't like is the 25-cent annual raise.
Yeah, the cost of living raise.
Which
25 cents ain't going to cover that anyway.
Yeah. I don't even, that's $500 a year, by the way, before taxes.
Right, that ain't dick.
Before taxes. So having those measurable benchmarks, having that growth plan, again, goes back to ensuring that both parties are fulfilling the agreement. Mm-hmm. Because I know to be, if you're going to come in and work at my company, one of the expectations is that you're going to grow. Mm-hmm. Is everyone going to grow at the same rate? No, that's a mistake leaders make, right? They want everyone to learn the same thing at the same rate, the same time, and grow. No, stop. You can't do that.
Right.
But if I have these plans laid out with each one individually, it also allows me to connect with them individually.
Right.
Because you might want to learn TIG welding, Matt might want to learn MIG welding. Nick might want to learn sales.
Good God, no.
I know, that's why I picked it.
Nick, I love you to death, but you would be the worst salesman on the face of the
planet. but that's my point, right? You have these kind of miniature customized plans for the individual, and then you have to ensure that those align with the growth and the vision of the company. Because you don't want to develop people and you get 2 or 3 years down the road and you've actually grown them in a position that's out in fucking left field.
Right.
And you pivoted, but you didn't inform them that they needed to pivot. So you end up growing apart down the road by trying to, build this positive thing in this growth plan.
Yeah. Well, and I think these growth plans are also like, this is, especially for the welding industry, the growth plan is for baseline. This is our bread and butter shit that you need to know. If you know things outside of that, like Grant's the only one that can TIG weld aluminum or stainless, and he's really fucking good at it. But that's why he makes more money an hour than anybody else in that shop does, because he knows these other skills. And dude, half the time, like if it's small repair work, we're just like, yeah, dude, just go do it after hours and just keep the money, like whatever. If we don't have to fucking deal with it, that'd be great. But that grants him more opportunities, right? And that's also another way to kind of help that growth plan. It's like if they've mastered something along the way and like really pinned something down, went above and beyond what the expectation was, finding little ways to hook them up for that, kick them down a little extra or whatever, however the fuck you can go about it. Like $50 handshakes and stuff like that. That shit goes a long way, and I think that gets overlooked. It's like when we're looking at the growth as a whole, the overall performance of the individual, and it's like, well, they didn't do this. Like, that's what you're looking at. Like, oh, they didn't do well or didn't do well here, but they fucking rocked it at this one thing. Like, fucking make sure that you pay attention to that and you inform them of that as well. Like, it's really easy to just nitpick the shit out of them. But, as you're watching your team members grow, you need to be vocal with them about it. You need to let them know that you're seeing the improvements in certain areas. To that fucking attaboy, like we didn't really thrive on those, but we weren't this generation. So those attaboys go a long way with these younger guys.
The participation trophy generation is in the workforce now. And there's a lot of leaders that don't want to hear this, but they don't realize that they have actually built a participation trophy culture because they're not rewarding the outliers. They're allowing the underperformers to limit the growth of the outliers. Because everybody gets treated fairly. Right? Everybody gets a participation trophy. And that will ruin a high performer.
Yeah.
They will leave.
Yeah.
They don't want that. They don't want
to be mediocre.
They don't want to be mediocre, and they don't want to be measured the same against someone that is mediocre.
Right.
I don't fucking want that. Right? I don't want to be measured against the guy that shows up 3 minutes before clock in, fucks around, does as little as possible, and tries to get off early every day. Why is his performance dictate my reward?
Right.
I don't fucking want that.
Right.
So the leaders have to be realistic about the culture that they're creating and the opportunity that they're creating. And that's why you can create these individual growth plans for these people, because you've got somebody that might accomplish in a year would take someone else 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You need to make sure that you have tension on each of them,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't expect the 3-year guy to do the same thing in a year.
Yeah. We all have our limitations.
Right. So having the baseline, like you talked about, having that structure in play, but creating opportunity for them to grow and to excel and to succeed is
avenues of acceleration.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's man, it's so important, because high performers everybody wants to feel valued, but high performers need and should be given, they should be given the value they're worth.
Yeah.
Right. And again, whether that's opportunity, which we talked about in cultural asset, maybe you're paying them to do training for your team. Maybe it is a $50 handshake. You're going to have a baseline benefits of the team of whatever that is. Maybe it's hourly, maybe it's time off, maybe it's insurance. But if you expect more, you're expected to pay more. And again, I think it's so overlooked, because we get wrapped up in the business, we get wrapped up in the grind, and we accidentally create these participation trophy cultures. And that's not sustainable for high performers, or you're going to end up with a whole team of mediocre people.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you want to be fair, you're going to get mediocre, right? And you're not being unfair by granting people the ability to accelerate past the other people in the tribe, right? There's always going to be somebody out in front. Let them be out in front.
If you're lucky enough to have a catalyst on your team, somebody that is out front, somebody that's there early, somebody that is willing to make decisions, the hard decisions, somebody that will take accountability for the responsibility that they have and that of others, a catalyst will completely accelerate the company's growth, and it might even change the direction.
Yeah. Well, like Nick was at for us. When Nick showed up, it was like you saw the tempo in the shop change, as it was like, get shit done. Let's fucking go, And when you're working side by side with a guy like that, it's a whole other story than, us. Matt and I haven't been on the tools in a while now. So like the newer people that come in, they don't see what like Grant and Hunter saw, like working side by side with us. And, once we got off the tools, the tempo kind of changed a little bit, because they start doing things their own way, which they should. Right. But then you bring someone like Nick in, that's like, let's fucking go, and it changes everything. And I think, when it comes to your hiring process, if you don't have one of those already, you should be looking for that dude. I think that's such a huge staple to any team. And it lets them see what that growth path will land you at, right? It's going to accelerate their drive to get to that growth point, right? Yeah. To get to the top part. It's like, oh, that's what it looks like. Okay. That's doable. That's achievable. It's going to be hard, but it's achievable, right? Yeah.
So another common mistake amongst business owners is they believe that if they have a catalyst or a high performer, that they automatically want the owner's job. And most people don't want their own business.
No.
Most people don't even need to have their own business.
Yeah.
Most people need to recognize that they want to play a part of something that is bigger than themselves. They want to be involved in success on a greater scale, and they don't want to have the headaches and the responsibility, the liability, and the reward for owning the business. So when you recognize that, because you keep people at an arm's length when you do that. You think, man, if I let them get too close, they're going to end up leaving,
and starting their own business.
I keep having that conversation over and over again with contractors. You know, like I'll talk to them about how much we invest in our people and all the shit we do, and they're like, "Well, what if they leave and go and do their own thing?" Like, well, why don't you make your culture and your environment so good that why would they?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would really be the incentive for them to leave? You know, and are there people that are going to jump ship and go do their own thing? Probably,
yeah,
but. For you to operate your business that way, of like if I put too much into them, they're going to leave.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, people don't leave jobs; they leave leaders. So I think that needs to be your internal conversation when that arises. But that keeps coming up over and over again, and it's like most people are starting their own businesses out of desperation, but the market is so affluent right now. You know, it's so boasted and bloated that it's like they can make it for a little while. But I mean, half of these contractors I see running around right now, the moment shit starts to go Western, they'll be on their face. Mm-hmm. They'll be out of the market in a quickness. And the shitty part is that you drove them to that point to leave, and then now their life is in shambles. They dumped everything into this business because they didn't want to work for other people because it was shitty to work for other people. You know, whether it was you or the last boss that they had, or, you know, a combination of all those things. And then now their life is royally fucked up because they couldn't find anywhere good enough to go work, and they weren't business owner.
Yep.
They weren't business owner material, you know.
Couple things. One, if you have a top performer in your company come up and say, "Hey, Nate, I'm going to put in my notice. You know, I'm going to head out." If you start offering him or her more money, fucking shame on you. Yeah. Because if
you should have been paying them top dollar.
Thank you. Yeah. If you're willing to pay to keep them, then you should have been investing to grow them.
Yeah.
And I get really frustrated when business owners do that, because what they do is they get scared and they panic and they try to throw money at the problem. If you're going to give them a $5 an hour raise or whatever, you should have fucking done that already.
Right. Well, they see right through that shit. Like, oh, now you can fucking pay me?
Yep. It's a tremendous insult to the individual.
Yeah. It's like the money. Oh, so you're saying the money was always there, but now that I'm threatening to leave, like, fuck you.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, again, so back to, you know, understanding and having a growth plan. If you and I have a 12-month growth plan and you meet that in 6 months, do you think I'm going to wait at the end of the 12 months to pay you what we agreed on?
Better not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't give me this shit. Well, you know, we give raises every January. What?
Yeah.
If you meet the expectation ahead of time, okay, now it's my turn to fulfill my end of the agreement. You sped up the pace. Good.
Right.
Here's more money. Here's more autonomy. Here's a company truck. Here, I'll pay for your cell phone. Here, whatever the benefits and whatever you guys have agreed on, I don't care. That's what I said earlier. Get creative, but don't limit them and try to leverage these things over people. And I think that's probably the best term that I'm trying to come up with here is these managers, they leverage this shit on their team. And those are the ones that, oh, well, we'll give you this much more money if you stay. No, fuck you. Now I definitely don't want to fucking work for you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, I was talking to a custom home builder the other day, and he was like, yeah, you know, like I've been losing guys, and, you know, one of the guys left for $2 an hour, an extra $2 an hour. He's like, dude, if you would have just come to me, like, I would have given you the extra $2 an hour. And I'm like, you understand the problem with that, right? Like,
yeah.
But I mean, I get where people are coming from, but it's from a place of misinformation.
So that example right there just tells me that they didn't have an agreed plan. They did not have a growth plan. Again, back to my exaggerated example of $100 an hour. I don't fucking care how much money you tell me you want to make. You give me a number and let's figure out how we can make that possible. There might be some educating involved where I say, okay, in this market, in this industry, $100 an hour is not feasible. But here's what is. $35 an hour, and then we can figure out performance-based compensations and sales commissions and benefits that are equivalent That way you have this bundle, you have this total operating package that is equivalent to $100 an hour, right? So we can have that conversation. I get really turned off when immediately the owner says, nope, you can't make that much money here. Wait a minute.
Yeah. Why would you not want to incentivize somebody to do all these things that generate this value to make that amount of money? To just say no right off of the bat, it's like you're not even going to think about it. It's like, nope, the standard market value is this amount.
Right.
Well, then you're going to end up with standard market people. And I'll tell you right now, standard market people are fucking dumb.
Participation trophy.
Yep.
That's who you're going to get. You know, so yeah, there's a lot of mindset that goes into this in developing a culture and developing growth plans and hiring. But we did it was a couple months ago. Excuse me. Too much work and not enough help. Remember when we did that? Well, tomorrow I'm doing a live seminar at Western Nevada College for some contractors and stuff about that, on that topic. Because you made the point, you said, you know, oh, you left me for $2 an hour. And then your other point was, well, what if you, what if you invest them and pay them and they leave? The reality is, if you're going to have a catalyst and you're going to have a high performer, you're going to have somebody that's a doer, you're going to have someone to represent you. Chances are they are working for somebody else. You're going to have to get out of this cookie cutter standard market value mindset, and you're going to have to go after those people. You can't recruit, and this is something we probably don't talk about enough. You're not going to recruit or necessarily attract those top performers. You're going to recruit good quality people. You're going to attract great quality people. But that outlier, you have to fucking go out and find them.
You gotta go get them. They're employed.
They are employed. They are not on Indeed or Facebook looking for a fucking job.
Right.
They are employed, and you have to recognize that they have a price tag.
Right. Yeah.
But they have a tremendous amount of value. Right? And if you've got someone making $50 an hour that can generate $250,000 to $350,000 in revenue, maybe that's partially new revenue, maybe that's efficiency gained revenue, maybe it's elevating the team's operation revenue. Right. You look at somebody that can move the needle that far in the company, absolutely they're worth that amount of money.
Yeah, I think that's a really good observation too. Don't look at it as just in the sales numbers. You need to look at it as in where you're trimming the fucking fat along the way. And just boosting morale in a shop. You know how much more efficient people are when they're fucking happy to be there and they're all talking shit and listening to music and, like people want to get things done. They want to see their hard work at the end of the day, But when you don't incentivize them to be there, shit moves a lot slower. Like the amount of money you make out of efficiency is fucking nuts.
Yeah.
It's not about, I increased my profit margin on my estimate. That's not really where you make the money,
There's only two ways to increase your profit. Increase your price or increase your efficiency. And again, if you have someone that can come in and move the needle, that's increasing your profit. And if you have someone that can increase the profit and they're exceeding the value at which they're worth or that you're paying them, it's a fucking win. Right? It's a win. And again, I don't have all bad things against unions. I think unions actually have an excellent structure for good baseline operations. Looking at that structure, the part of it I don't like is it is limiting.
Yeah, and it's all politics.
There's a lot of politics. Everybody knows somebody that's in the union that if they weren't in the union, they would be fired.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I don't care union, non-union, but what I like about it is they have this growth plan laid out. You look at these 4-year, 5-year intern programs from, apprentice to journeyman. They have the entire thing mapped out.
Right.
from how many hours you got to do, what tests you have to take. You know, this whole fucking course is charted for you. So you have the ability to plug this person into this growth plan. What I'm talking about is very similar to that. Now we're just talking about a longer scale, bigger scale. Now we're including culture. Now we're including leadership. Now we're including building a good team of people as opposed to just plugging someone into a monetary metric.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. That's why I like the state of Nevada, because the state of Nevada is a right to work state. So even with our unions, they have to compete on an open market. There is no jurisdictional bullshit like there is in California. So it's like between California and British Columbia, dude, I saw some really low end journeymen, and I'm like, who the fuck gave you your journeyman card? You know, like,
Yeah.
just barely passed the test and doesn't give a fuck about being there. But I agree that the pathway was correct, you know? And like I said, I think the politics get too involved in it. Like, people are getting pushed through just because they know somebody or whatever. You know, like, I don't know what the inner workings look like. Don't send me messages about your dumb bullshit about your fucking local. All right. But, I mean, we were in shit. At one point, I was in 4 active unions. I was in the operators for some fucking reason, Boilermakers, laborers, and I was actually in 2 different laborers at one time. But, you know, never once received anything from the union. No training, no nothing, nobody ever reached out. It was just like we bought our way into the union. And I think that's why I'm so bitter about it. I'm sure if I would have went through their programming, it'd be a little different, you know? But we were basically, it was like mafioso shit. We were paying to work. It's like, okay, well, we're going to have to kick into their funds and then we can go do this job, you know?
Well, it also kind of falls back into the participation trophy culture, right?
Yeah.
If you're a badass and I'm a fucking dirtbag, but we're both journeymen.
Yep. You go on the bottom of the board when you come back from your next job and you work through the ranks, right?
And we make the same amount of money.
Yeah. There's like some of them that won't let you name request.
Yeah.
You can't request people. It's like everybody goes to the bottom of the board. And it's like, you got some slapdick running around that I have to hire him for a day first in order to get to the guy that I want?
Right.
What the fuck is that?
Yep. My point, right? So when you look past that, and don't get me wrong, there are some phenomenal unions out there where the amount of money that they make really kind of compensates for some of the bullshit that we're talking about.
Right.
But in reality and in small business and these owner operators they're doing the hiring, they're doing the vetting, they're doing the training, you have to establish that culture as well. So that formula doesn't work a lot in, again, small business. And again, that's why you've got to create this.
Yeah.
You need to create this plan. You need to create these opportunities. You need to create these conversations with people. And again, I'm going to circle back to my exaggerated, number. If I ask you that and you tell me $100 an hour, I also, as we reverse engineer that, we might discover that not in a year, but in 5 years, we can obtain this goal. Right? I'm not going to say no until we dissect it, reverse engineer it, find out, are you willing to commit to this plan? Because I'm willing to commit to my part.
Right.
But are you going to sit there and say, man, in 5 years, I can get to this if these are the things that I do? If you're looking for an immediate return and immediate gratification because for some reason you think that you have this monetary value that's far above everyone else, well, then you're not a good fit culturally.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. No, I really like that idea of, like, especially if it's some off the wall shit like that. Like, it gets you to rethink what your positions look like, right?
Right.
You're revisiting this stuff and you're like, how could we make, like, it sounds absurd, but how could we do that?
Yeah. So you and Matt have developed the 3-tier rig rate structure, which is fantastic. You have a starting rig rate and you have a top performance rig rate. And if everyone is top performance, they're making the same. So it's what we're talking about. There's a plan. The opportunity outside of that comes into the growth plan aspect of the individual. So you have this lane, paved for the opportunity of the team. 3-tier rig rate. You guys have some hourly structures for shop work and so on. But above and beyond, what is available? Leadership positions are available.
Yep.
Again, you can train the team. We'll fucking pay you to train guys. You can do that. Performance-based compensation on some jobs, maybe some piecework on some jobs. You guys have played around with that a little bit, right?
Yeah, if we have any manufacturing, we usually throw them a piece price on it. And dude, it's kind of frustrating sometimes though, because you see how fast they move on piecework and you're like, dude, come on. Like, I mean, I can see a little bit of a bump up, but now you're like
20% more.
Yeah, I'm like, damn, dude.
Yeah.
But I mean, good for them. Most of our piecework stuff, we're like, okay, this is all going to go on your rig check. Do it after hours. So they'll, like, we were doing these big crucibles for this battery facility. We had like 20 of them plus a bunch of racks to build for that house, the crucibles. And we were just like, all right, just come in, work your normal hours. We really can't take this thing on. We're too busy. But if you guys want to do it after hours, we'll give you piecework. Dude, they would work fucking 18 hours a day. And they were just cranking these things out. And I'm like, good. We still made our money. They made way more money.
Right.
And it was all on their 1099, so if they got shit they can write off, they can write it off. It's not only advantageous just for the money, but for the tax purposes too. So, but yeah, any chance we have to give the guys an ability to make more money, you're going to do more work, but I want to see you make more money. Fuck yeah, I'm stoked.
Of course you're going to do more to earn more.
It was like back when we were doing the Clayton Middle School. It was all prevailing wage, and our rig welders make over prevailing wage anyway. But fuck, dude, they were working 18 hours a day, and you could tell that these kids had never worked 18 hours in their fucking life. But I remember looking at payroll, and I'm like, dude, you walked home with $4,000 this week. And they're like, oh, we're so fucking tired. And I'm like, look at your goddamn check. What the fuck you mean you're tired? Be untired. I would be untired for that.
Be untired.
Yeah.
You buy a lot of Red Bull.
Yeah,
with that.
just get up and fucking move,
Yeah.
But they don't like being pushed like that. That's not the working tempo of this generation. But some of them do.
Yeah. But again, meeting them on their level, right, as a leader, and elevating them up, and maybe part of that elevation is increasing their tempo.
Yeah.
And every once in a while you have to roll up your sleeves and get in the shit with them. Something I enjoy doing time to time, because you need to, instead from an observation post and looking at the tempo, you need to get down there with them so you can experience that. Because what I know happens is we start to create this own narrative. I worked harder than that. I worked faster than that.
Yep.
I did better than that. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
You put yourself next to them so we can have a real understanding of how far off or how close they are from what you think you are.
Right.
Yeah. And internal competition is fun. Doing it in a controlled environment, even do it training after work or something, and set them up. But we, and it's I'm kind of getting to the old timers now, but we kind of look and go, fucking, I could do that. I did that. This is what we did. We worked in shit, piss, blood, and tears.
Right.
It's like, How often?
Yeah, right.
How often did you really have to do that?
How often do you think about your normal day at work?
Never.
You think about the fucking greatest times and the worst times.
That's right.
You fucking forgot all about the, fucking middle of whatever, April.
Yeah.
When you just showed up every day, worked 8 hours and went home.
Yep. It wasn't difficult.
Yeah.
You were probably complaining. You were hungover.
The thing you're thinking of is the fucking shutdowns where you're making $10,000 a week, but you worked 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you almost died a couple times. Cool. That shit'll stick out in your fucking memory. But you weren't on the throttle like that all the fucking time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that narrative can creep in, right? And it creates this false expectation of the team that you build.
That's why the older generation's so fucking crotchety, though, because that's what they use as their comparison, right? They're like, you guys are a bunch of fucking pussies. And it's like, dude, you can't compare my entire existence to 1 week that you had, you know?
I had a graybeard tell me one day, he said, why the fuck would you work out at the gym after work all day? You do construction. He's like, you don't need to work out. And I'm looking at this guy hadn't seen his dick in years.
Right.
Like he's got this huge belly. And I'm like, inside, I'm like, that's why.
Yeah, right. But oh, dude, you're also like, I just did maintenance work all day. Like I stood there with a voltmeter on a low voltage system for fucking 8 hours. Like I did nothing physical.
I need to move.
I stood up. That was about it.
Were there days where I would get off work? Like, no, there's no way I'm going to fucking gym today.
Right.
That's okay, you know. But again, it's this narrative that if you do this all day, you don't have to do these other things,
Right.
And I was a guest on Construction Champions podcast, and Ron Nussbaum, super energetic guy, super nice guy. We got to talking about fitness a little bit, discipline. And one of the things that I brought up, I said, you know, if you go to your local liquor store, park across the street starting at about 3:00 and sit there until 5 and watch how many skilled trades trucks roll in and out of that liquor store from people getting off work. That's cultural. But more importantly, that's what was handed down to us from the previous generation. You had to work hard, drink hard, fight hard, and then get up and do that shit again. And that's what was expected. I mean, you know, again, growing up in the trades and starting out in a mechanic shop early on as a, 13-year-old, that was every day.
Right.
Every single day. The clock hits beer 30. And I'm okay with hanging out and having a drink. I'm not saying that's negative. If you're really focusing on your fitness, it doesn't bode well. But what I'm talking about is these guys slamming 6-packs, 12-packs, 30-packs every day.
Right.
Like, what? How are you doing
How do you
this?
get up in the morning?
But again, that's kind of the culture. So to your point of, some of the graybeards are really crotchety and they bitch about this fucking generation. These guys are soft. Well, they're going to live a little bit longer, most likely.
Right.
Okay. I'm not saying they're not soft because pretty soft.
Yeah.
Half a dozen push-ups. They're done, right? But it's like you just don't expect them to do exactly what you did and generate the exact same result that you did.
Right.
You've got to broaden your horizons here a little bit, right? So just don't, like I said, don't impose your plan on somebody else and expect the same result.
Right. Yeah, it's not going to work out well for you.
No.
Yeah.
And I was telling Ron, I said, I started drinking in my mid-30s, and I think I've had, who's the comedian you're talking about?
Ron White.
Ron White. He said that. He said, I think a person is only really meant to drink so much alcohol in their entire life. And he said, I've drank all mine.
Yeah. Dude, that dude used to fucking party.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
I never did shit like that, but I'm kind of through it now where I'm like,
Yeah. Well, like John Daly, who's made a career out of fucking drinking on the golf course on the PGA Tour, but the dude's just a fucking animal. Like, he's this rare specimen of a human. He's not in shape or anything, but that's also why golf's not a fucking sport. It's a game.
Oh, that's interesting.
I know my buddy Kyle's in his fucking excavator right now going, shut the fuck up, Nate. We've had this conversation so many times on the golf course. I'm like, if it's more dangerous for the spectators than it is for the player, it's a game. It's not a sport.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I never heard it put that way.
But John Daly, that dude's a fucking dude. He's like beating Tiger Woods. And Tiger Woods is completely dedicated to his shit. So, hits a certain amount of golf balls every day. And John Daly's in the bar every fucking night, just getting plastered.
Yeah.
Wakes up and competes with that guy.
Well, Steve from the gym eats 8 to 10 donuts a day.
Yeah.
He will wake up at 1 or 2 in the morning. He has donuts, and it was kind of funny because Matt was there, and we were just talking fitness, and Matt's like, dude, how do you eat? And he goes, oh God. He said, you're not going to believe me.
Mm-hmm.
He said, and Steve's girlfriend sitting there.
Mm-hmm. Shelly.
Yeah. And she said, I pick up a dozen donuts almost every day for him. And he will put them by the bed. He will wake up at 1 or 2 or 3 in the morning, and he'll gobble a donut.
Right.
And he said, you know how happy that makes me.
Right.
Now, by the way, for our listeners, this dude could step on a bodybuilder stage at almost any time.
Yeah. He's fucking jacked.
He is completely jacked.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at Matt and I said, how about you eat a dozen donuts every day and see
what
if
happens.
You get the same result?
Right. Yeah.
you occasionally you get those freaks of nature that can just do something that defies science and defies the human body. And then somebody else tries to do it and
crash and burn.
Yeah. Now you're excessively obese.
Well, dude, that's like Hunter. You know, Hunter's what, 5'10" or something, if that, 130 pounds soaking wet. Dude, he eats like 6,000 calories a day and can't put a fucking pound on to save his life.
Yep.
Like, he was going to the gym and he stopped for a week and lost like 5 pounds.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, fuck you little shit. I look at a milkshake and my ass jiggles, you know?
Because your milkshake brings all
the boys?
Boys, is it?
Shit, I don't discriminate. It brings everybody to the yard. Maybe a couple farm animals.
A dairy cow.
Yeah.
Hello.
Get out of here, you heifer.
I love it. So, dude, I'm ready. I gotta get the fuck out of here. It's Monday.
Yep.
We got a busy couple days. Mm-hmm. So, anything in closing?
Nope.
You'll look done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long day for me.
Fair enough. You can find Nate on Instagram at Nate Newton 87.
Yeah. Don't forget to send the questions. Stay up for Josh.
Thank you.
Yeah.
At least let us know if you want to hear Nate and I fire questions off at one another in a comedic controlled state. You can also find me on Instagram at The Tradesman Experience. Email is thetradesmanexperience@gmail.com. Website's thetradesmanexperience.com. And the YouTube channel is The Tradesman Experience. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. Get out there and get shit done. Be proud to be a tradesman. See ya.